timing, your reaction to the details, and why both sides, Israel and Hezbollah, may be wanting this agreement now.
Yeah, Anna, if this agreement goes forward, it would be a strategic failure for Hezbollah, who entered this war after October 7th last year. And the goal was to pressure Israel to end its war in Gaza, and that clearly has not happened. And instead, what we've seen in Lebanon is thousands of Lebanese civilians killed. We've seen northern Israel, the displacement of civilians. And Israel has been highly effective in its attacks on Hezbollah, on its infrastructure, and, of course, in the killing of its leader, Sheikh Nasrallah. So I think for Lebanon as a country, to have its central government take control of southern Lebanon and fully control its own territory, this is the opportunity to do that. Hezbollah is extremely weak right now, and the Israeli government sees a victory. And so I think that's why it's all coming together at this moment. It would be a big win for security in the region if it's implemented as envisioned. Of course, that's always the hard part in these kinds of arrangements. But if that were to take place, it would be a major defeat for Hezbollah, a win for the Lebanese people and the Israeli people as well.
One interesting detail about this deal that we are reporting on, or at least plans for implementing this deal, is that the U.S. is pledging to lead an international economic effort to try to fundraise to rebuild some of the areas in southern Lebanon that have been destroyed through all this back and forth attacks and strikes. They want to preempt Iran and Hezbollah from doing the reconstruction and regaining the loyalty of the people. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, Joel, and also what you see as the U.S. role in reaching this deal.
Well, the U.S. role has been central, without a doubt, with Amos Hock's team doing shuttle diplomacy between Beirut and Jerusalem. And the rebuild, the vision of rebuilding is essential to kicking out Hezbollah and kicking out malign foreign influence from Iran and allowing the Lebanese people to control their own destiny. You know, they've had this militia in southern Lebanon now for decades, been used by Iran as a hedge to prevent any attack potentially from Israel into Iran, the back and forth. But it's been devastated. So it's a loss for Iran on the military side. Now let's get a win for the Lebanese people. And if countries around the region, the Gulf states in particular, can demonstrate the ability to support reconstruction with American and international backing, that's a win and potentially a template as well for future reconstruction when we look towards Gaza and hopefully an end to hostilities there and a reconstruction as well, to kick out the malign actors and help the people in these countries breathe again.
Joel, would Iran have to be agreeing to this deal as well? How do you think Iran's looking at this?
Yeah, you know, they're on the outside looking in, aren't they? And they're certainly a player, and they could be a spoiler. There are going to be other avenues in the United States. I don't think we're going to be speaking directly to Iran, but France and other countries, they do. And historically, France has had a primary role amongst Western countries in Lebanon due to its colonial efforts there years ago and a large Francophone population. So Iran's going to play a role, but it might not be a direct role. And the key role is to not have it play a spoiler role and to allow for this to continue going forward in the direction it's going. One thing to note, though, and we have to be aware, is Hafez al-Assad in Syria and the question of Syria domination of Lebanon. There are a lot of players. So it's incumbent upon the parties that are engaged in this right now to really be effective in implementation so that these malign actors like Iran and like Syria don't get a chance to reestablish negative influences inside of Lebanon.
And again, we are talking about a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Of course, that's to the north. There's still the ongoing conflict to the south there in the Gaza area. Gabe, does the U.S. administration see this potentially as a trigger to reignite ceasefire talks when it comes to Hamas in Gaza?
Well, potentially, Anna. And look, the senior U.S. officials tell us that the big breakthrough here was that Hezbollah dropped its demand that there would need to be some sort of ceasefire in Gaza before it would negotiate on this deal. Now, some hostage families, of course, may be upset that this deal does not really address Gaza at all. But there is some hope that perhaps that this could potentially isolate Hamas in a way, and so that those ceasefire deal, the hostage negotiations in Gaza may progress as well. Although some senior U.S. officials have told us that it is unlikely, increasingly unlikely, that any sort of ceasefire deal in Gaza may come to fruition before President Biden leaves office. But again, the breakthrough here, as we understand it, is that Hezbollah dropped its demand that there had to be some sort of ceasefire deal in Gaza before it would negotiate for this separate deal to Israel's north. But again, many unanswered questions right now about what this might mean for these hostage negotiations moving forward in Gaza. Anna.
Hala, what is the latest in that conflict between Israel and Hamas?
I just wanted to add something. You asked why now. The intelligence source I spoke to earlier today, who confirmed the terms of the ceasefire plan, told me that no one will say this explicitly, that there is an understanding, he understands, that the United States would release some weapons that had either not been shipped as quickly as Israel was like or had been withheld in order to get the support of the Netanyahu government and cabinet for this ceasefire deal. Among those weapons, he told me, are included 1-ton bombs. Those are the extremely destructive, damaging bombs that will take out, entire residential and structures in Gaza and elsewhere, wherever they're used. Some bulldozers that he told me the United States wasn't shipping as quickly as Israel would like, and other munitions as well as tank rounds. So it is possible that one of the motivating factors for the Israeli government here to sign on to this deal is linked, though it will not be said explicitly, and it is certainly not included in the terms of the deal that we will all be made, that will be made public. We expect later today that this is one of the motivating factors. As far as Gaza, there's no linkage between the two, and if indeed more heavy weaponry makes its way to Israel, it is possible that Israel will, in fact, increase its operations in Gaza rather than scale them back, Anna.
Joel, how much more complicated are the negotiations with Hamas, given that hostages remain captive there?
Yeah, Anna, the negotiations with Hamas are incredibly complex. The Hamas leadership has now left Qatar and is now in Turkey. Those that have survived Israeli assassination attempts, quite frankly, and with Sinwar now dead as well, the leader on the ground, it's a very diffuse decision-making body. So they're very complex. And the Israeli maneuvers towards Gaza are such that they believe there's still a continuing threat of counterinsurgency, of response from Hamas. And so they're very different from Hezbollah. And I just want to emphasize that again. Hezbollah as an entity has had a strong, thick role inside of Lebanon for years and a relationship with the Lebanese government. So when Amos Hochstein was negotiating, he was speaking with the Lebanese government, not with Hezbollah. But that government had a direct relationship with Hezbollah, and they're able to make these decisions much more cleanly. It's much harder now with Hamas, but it is a win to take one, if this goes forward, to take one of these conflicts off the table to enable more international pressure on Hamas to come to terms with the fact that it has been devastated inside Gaza, needs to agree to a ceasefire and to release the hostages.
All right, Joel, Rubin, Hala.